United States of America's ancient beginnings saw exploration at the helm, with government agents scrambling to explore deeper into the countryside, knowing great fortune awaited those who surveyed the best land. At the time, America was ruled by a ruthless, powerful despot who hoped his explorers would be able to find new lands for him to rule over, particularly ones that were rich in resources that he could tax. The Iroquois to the north knew of various rituals, collectively called Mysticism, but refused to trade it for a fair price to the Americans. The Iroquois were ignored for the time being. America had more important matters to see to, such as mapping out the West. America eventually gave the Iroquois a small tribute in return for their religious practices regardless. If nothing else, it would at least deter them from aggressive behavior. As the American business community would later put it, no country accepts ash. The Navajo culture were masters of wheelwork, and thus educated their friendly American visitors when they were encountered. Unfortunately, the Navajo were devastated by disease shortly afterward, prompting them to retreat further into the American countryside. At some point in time, the tribe vanished entirely, and the only record of their existence is well-preserved ruins. As American explorers ventured westward towards the California coast and struggled to overcome the treacherous Rocky Mountain range, Tallahassee was founded as a gate to Florida. While there were aggressive tribes southeast of the location, the city was nonetheless instrumental in securing America another crucial seaport. Tallahassee would in later years become an epicenter of American industry, and pave the way for the country to rule the seas. The Cherokee of California were mighty warriors, who were impressed by the Americans, meaning they thought the envoy and his escorts were weak, and so instructed them on how to better protect themselves. The American military learned about archery in particular, granting it forces that could be used to keep the sizable hordes of hostile natives to the west under wraps. Prior to the friendship with the Cherokee, native tribes produced soldiers who were too well entrenched with their arrows to be reliably dispersed from their encampments. America's acquisition of the technology evened the odds. When it became apparent that the Iroquois might try to go through Michigan to access the Great Plains and their fertile farmlands, the despot had his military form a barrier at checkpoints near Detroit and Philadelphia. The result was the northern neighbors could no longer move their troops to the area without a formal declaration of war. Despite the best efforts of the despot, the future United States and Iroquois were destined to soon collide. At some point lost to time, an envoy group was startled when a volcano erupted shortly as they were passing by. Fortunately, the streams of molten lava did not reach them, allowing them to safely pass the eruption zone. Nonetheless, it was a force of nature that reminded America of its subservience to greater powers, and the eruption compelled many Americans to retreat to their homes and pray. America was to remain a religiously devout society well into the 16th and 17th centuries CE. The acquisition of the process of pottery making from the Caves of Oregon greatly expanded the power of the United States, as it made it possible to construct granaries. The United States' food storage facilities had been fairly lacking prior to the discovery of the West Coast, but Americans now had the comfort of facilities engineered specifically to reduce spoilage and keep out pests. Stored in jars and well salted, grain could last for considerable lengths of time, greatly increasing America's food supply and thus growth potential. The Americans honored the Carib tribe by naming the sea to the south of Tallahassee after them. Eventually, the Iroquois demanded America end its technological superiority, and the despot rightly refused. The Iroquois chief Hiawatha responded by issuing a declaration of war. All cities began construction of barracks specifically to stave off the threat. With the discovery of the Aztecs and Maya shortly after the war declaration, America had found itself new avenues of trade for technology and goods, reducing the dependence on the Iroquois nations. America nonetheless decided that an offensive war was beyond its capabilities, and focus would remain on defense. The American army was too pitiful to possibly penetrate and then occupy the Canadian countryside that the Iroquois called home, but could certainly make all who transgressed American territory bleed.